we are now entering what is essentially the final stretch, the final month of the NWSL season. So we've been hyping that up. We just went through the standings for the end of August with everybody in our previous episode. And it's now going to be September all the way through October 2nd, right? Sort of kind of close or through mid-October, to sort of close out the remainder of this. Ton of teams in a playoff push, not just the teams that are in the upper six of the table. But we wanted to take the time here to talk about August a little bit more because I think with August, we really got to sort of see the league kind of crank itself up a little bit. So while this final month is really that final push, it sort of there have been some games and there have been some player performances that have sort of really stood out and have really helped elevated that kind of playoff push energy. So what we wanted to do was go through like a team of the month for August and sort of see, like, recognize some player performances. And quite frankly, doing this specifically for this month, Lisa, I think it was, maybe, I don't want to say it was harder than previous months, but it's just that there were just a lot of really good individual performances, I think, over the course of August that we got to see across all 12 clubs.
Yeah, the competition was very good this month. In terms of like chaos, there was a lot of goals, right? There's a lot of action. There's a lot of different goal scorers. There's a lot of individual players in the attacking side of the field that really stepped up, which maybe made choosing some of the defensive side of this a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
Because in terms of like team of the month and picking players, it's easier for me to say, wow, this player scored in the 4 games that were played. They scored in 3 of them. They had an assist in the other one. Like, there are stats, like tangible stats. And on the other side of the ball, which frankly I enjoy a little bit more on the defensive side of it, it's actually breaking down their play. And sometimes it's hard to think like, okay, well, this team, they didn't win any game this month, or they tied twice and then they lost twice. But defensively, it's the individual skill. So I think that's where it did get a little tricky, because this month was very open. We saw a lot of movement. We saw a team like Orlando Pride pick up points and climb the standings. A team like North Carolina score a plethora of goals against their opponents, but also concede a lot of goals. So there's just a lot of back and forth between this. I'm excited. We made different teams of the month, some crossover in our players, but you and I both have different teams, different 11 players.
Yeah, a little bit, right? We tried to switch things out a little bit here, but I also think that sort of speaks to the performances, the similarities that you and I are going to have on our 11 here. I think sort of speaks to the fact that these players obviously had some pretty impressive month of August for their clubs. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and start off first, Lisa.
Oh, I love this. Thank you, Sandra. I'm going to start in the back, of course, with our goalkeepers. This was actually a really hard one for me to pick, but I ended on Erin McLeod, goalkeeper for Orlando Pride. She's played every minute for Orlando, but throughout this last month, the Pride really snuck up. They picked up points, and a lot due in part to a player like McLeod, who was in goal, saving a lot of the shots that came her way to keep Orlando in games, whether it was a tie or just picking up points here and there. She's second in the league in saves right now. She's got 61 behind Katie Lund with 79. So like, she's at the top of this, and she's put under a lot of pressure. And I've just been really impressed with what McLeod can do. I'm going to run through my whole 11. Is that how we want to do this?
Yeah, go
cool.
for it.
So backline, I have Naomi Gurma of San Diego Wave, Zoe Morse of Chicago Red Stars, Kelly Hubley of Portland Thorns, and then this is like a little bit of a curveball, but Taylor Smith of Gotham.
Right.
She was a defender. Taylor Smith was a defender way back when. We've most recently in the league seen her be a forward, and she scored a handful of goals for Gotham. She was picked up by Gotham and stepped into that team seamlessly. But most recently, we saw her on the back line. And I really, really liked her this past weekend on the back line, creating chances for Gotham. And then Zoe Morse for Chicago. Like, Chicago's back line is just falling apart. They don't have a lot of defense. They don't have a lot of depth. And they've leaned on a player like Morse. And I think she's done an incredible job. And then Gurma and Hubley, just 2 standout players. that have just done tremendous work. Midfield, Maggie Doherty Howard of Orlando Pride. She notched 2 goals this month and really just trying to stabilize things for Orlando in the midfield. And I think she did a good job of it. She's a big reason that Orlando turned things around this month. Lola Bonta for Kansas City. I mean, need I say more? We could give her this award just for her celebrations, but that is not why she gets it. It's for all of her hard work, the defensive work that LaBonta does in the midfield. Offensively, she's the clicking piece, the playmaker for Kansas City. And then Carrie Recaro of Angel City. She notched a handful of goals this month. And the first time in her career, she is playing with so much confidence and she's taking shots on goal. I've really been impressed with Carrie Recaro and what she's been doing at Angel City, helping them pick up points. My front line, so I'm going with a 4-3-3 here. 3 forwards. This is like a no-brainer to me. Ebony Salmon of Houston Dash, Diana Ordonez from North Carolina Courage, and Megan Rapinoe from OL Reign. I mean, need I say more? These players stepped up and had huge months for their respective clubs. I mean, you look at a player like Megan Rapinoe, in the 4 matches played in August, she had 3 assists and 4 goals in those games. Like a player that truly changed everything for OL Reign and continues to do that game in and game out. Salmon stepped up. She gained so much confidence this month with Houston scoring goals, and Diana Ordonez, she's making a run for the Golden Boot race. I love it. So that's my 11. That's who I've got rolling with.
Listen, you like it. I love it. There are going to be similarities across our 2 teams here. So I'm maybe not going to, sort of, harp on maybe the similar picks that we made. But I'm going to also start from the back. I ended up going with Didi Herrera. I was going back and forth because one of the things that kind of stood out to me in the month of August was just this continued run that Orlando Pride went through. So it was tough for me to sort of narrow it down to one bid. And I'm going with Heritage because I thought she had some good performances for Angel City in August specifically. They're a team that are still on the outside looking in, but they're keeping pace in this playoff push, and they're sitting just outside of playoff standing. And there were some really unfortunate moments for this team that they're probably going to go back and look at in their results in August and sort of say, hey, this is probably this is a game here or 2 games here where we could have actually had this one in the bag. And there were moments here where you just sort of saw, you hate to sort of see it, but the defense kind of letting down, the performance within some of those matches. But I do think that there was enough there from here to sort of go ahead and earn some honors for August for sort of maintaining, performance with Angel City to sort of keep them afloat, quite frankly, going into this final stretch of the season. Backline, pretty similar, quite frankly. I also have Naomi Girma. I feel like she kind of came back from the CONCACAF W Championship and needed a little bit of time to get going, as most players who came back from that tournament did need a little bit of time to get reacclimated with their club teams. But I think once we sort of slid into August, things kind of ironed themselves out. And I really enjoyed watching Girma in this most recent match against Portland Thorns. So she absolutely got the honors. I have Zoe Morse on there as well for all the similar reasons that you've mentioned. I think at this point, when you're looking at their Red Stars defensive line, kind of the anchor, quite frankly, throughout this entire season, but really throughout the duration of the month of August as well, as players were kind of coming in and out of that back 3 with injury. I've also got Kelly Hubley. She's been doing really well for Portland all year as well as in August. But I'm going to give some honors in the defensive line to Katie Naughton as well in this one. She's someone who I think has stepped up once more for this Houston Dash back line in light of some, again, changes that they see throughout the entire season. And I think they went on an incredible run in August here. And I think that she deserves some love as well. I was torn between, choosing mostly center backs, but I couldn't help it. I thought they had really good performances. I think there's a case to be made for somebody like a Carson Pickett, in this one, but this is ultimately what I settled on. In terms of the midfield, I also have Lo LaBonta in this one. I think the run that Kansas City has gone on sort of is a testament to that, and what she's done for this team, particularly during this month of August, has been huge. She's absolutely someone who is, on the radar of my MVP watch. And I think that she's been an absolute beast for this team in the midfield. I've also got Kari Recaro. She's had a very good month. Talk about a player who has sort of, risen her profile a bit for this. Not just this club, but I think maybe a little bit, across the league. She's someone who has been able to sort of sustain things in that midfield for Angel City, but she's also racked up a couple goals, like you said as well, Lisa. But I think for the third midfielder is where we differ. I ended up going with Vanessa DiBernardo of Chicago Red Stars. They had a little bit of a mixed August, 2 wins, two losses here, but I think for DiBernardo, what she's been putting together for this team all year, and specifically what we saw during this month, is quite frankly how lost a little bit of this middle third of the pitch would be if they didn't have a player of her caliber in that area. And for me, that's sort of what it comes down to. If you remove a player from this position, or if you remove a player from this area on the pitch, how is that team going to sort of handle it? So will they thrive or will they flounder? And I think for the Red Stars, it's a little bit of the latter. And I think with the exception of that Angel City game where they did a lot of work but get the goal, I think DiBernardo has been putting together a very, very quiet, kind of not even dark horse, but very long shot type of MVP kind of level of season for the Red Stars. So I've got her amongst the midfielders as well. And no shocker here, you and I have the same front line with Ordonez, Salmon, and Rapinoe. I think when you're looking across the board of the forwards who have scored during the month of August specifically, these were the players that kind of gave the most exciting performances and felt like they were constantly in the headlines, quite frankly. But it wasn't, I think, up until the final weekend of games. I don't know if so many of these areas in our team of the month were solidified, quite frankly. I think maybe sort of having that final game maybe kind of cemented some things, but I think you can go back through some of these positions and make a case for multiple players during the month of August. And while Ebony Salmon, I think, has been the best mid-season acquisition for a team this year, I think Cece Kaiser has also made a case for herself as well with Kansas City Current.
Yeah, I understand. Sorry about that. I've been drinking my tea over here, so I muted myself. Yeah, I mean, I like our acquisitions for this team of the month. This was really hard to do, pick some of these players that have shown, because it's been a great month in the NWSL, and I can't believe that August is already done. It's a bit surreal.